with the whole viral posting, I understand you get close to no leads from viral posts, but what you need to understand is they get you that reach that you need to get to then convert those leads into whatever, those posts into followers, customers, whatever. I think they're still very important. They obviously do make you a little bit ego driven sometimes, and they can like sway your how you post and what you post, but definitely if you do it in a really smart way, a viral post can bring in more clients. But for me, my first viral post, I wasn't even expecting it. I wasn't really selling anything. I wasn't looking for things. I was just trying to figure out the platform out.
Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. The ambition of the podcast is to show relatable stories from young entrepreneurs doing some incredible things to inspire the next generation, including you listening wherever you are. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years and the ambition has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the scale of where we want to go. We want to bring on bigger guests for you guys to show more and more relatable and inspiring stories from young entrepreneurs across the world. The majority of you guys listening haven't subscribed to the podcast yet. All you have to do is click that subscribe button wherever you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and that will allow us to bring on bigger guests and ask the questions to them that you really want to hear. And it really is that simple. So thank you again for clicking on the podcast and enjoy the episode. So why did you start on LinkedIn?
Well, to be honest, I needed some referrals for my master's because I was trying to apply for a master's and I didn't have any uni contacts. I didn't save them. It had been like 2 years I'd been at university and I just had to go on LinkedIn. And I had previously deleted my LinkedIn account. So like I started off from scratch, fresh. I didn't have any contacts or anything. So I was like, I'm just going to hop in. And then I tried to find all my university lecturers and professors and whatever, and I was like, you know what, try and make this look nice. So they give me a nice recommendation, which they never did actually. They never ever did, but I gained so much from it anyway.
So you started because like you wanted to get good references from your lecturers.
Yeah,
that's such a rogue way to start it.
I know. I like started from scratch. I didn't even know how to use LinkedIn really. Like I obviously had it when I was at uni. And, you know, people just use it as like oh, I'm so happy to announce that I just got a job at X, Y, and Z or whatever. And I hated it. I actually deleted it because I couldn't stand, like throughout the pandemic, I just couldn't stand seeing people being promoted, having all these jobs. And I was at home, unemployed, sad. And like, you know, seeing my ex be like, yeah, I just got promoted. I was like, no, that's... I had to leave, deleted it, hated it.
It's quite a toxic space, I feel. Like, there's a lot of bad stuff to it. So you started it because of that. But like, when did you decide? Because like, obviously, if it wasn't getting you results in the uni sort of area, when did you decide to sort of change your path?
So it was within the week that I was like, I need to make this look nice. I watched a Gary Vee keynote speech on YouTube. Like I binged a few of his videos on LinkedIn. He was like, LinkedIn is the future. Like I predicted this with TikTok a few months ago, and a few years ago, no one listened. Now listen to me on LinkedIn. And I was like, well, I'm going to listen to him because I ignored him on TikTok. So I just started posting content. I already had the agency going, sort of. Like it was off. I was more of like a entrepreneur than an entrepreneur. I had like a couple freelance clients that I wasn't that passionate about. I was still finding my feet in what I really wanted to do. Like if I wanted to have a business, if it was just like a part-time thing. Meanwhile, I actually found a real job, which now obviously it's not happened. I built an agency from it. But yeah. That's basically.
So the agency came before doing stuff on LinkedIn.
I started the agency like a year before I hopped on LinkedIn, but it wasn't like a proper agency. It was like more like freelance. I was doing on and off projects. I was just trying to earn some money while it's in the pandemic and just trying to get myself doing something. When you're unemployed and at home, living with your parents, life is just so boring, hard, and lonely. So and then jumped on LinkedIn, learned how to post on LinkedIn because I don't know if you've realized, like there's LinkedIn posts are different. Like it's not like writing a Instagram caption or like a vlog. They're like it's like there's a specific format to it. So I learned that, started feeding my feed with people because you said it's quite toxic, and it happens when like you don't have the right connections, when it's all like uni people that you know or like old employers or whatever. I started finding creators on LinkedIn, which I didn't know was a thing. Like creators, I just thought it was normal people looking for people. No, there's like people are giving amazing value single day there. So started to create like my own little network of people that I actually liked their content and understood that LinkedIn is actually a social media platform, not just a job seeking platform.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because like back in the day, I think everyone just saw it as like a job sort of site. Whereas, yeah, as you say, it's definitely evolved into more of a content page now. So like, when did you kind of realize that LinkedIn can be like a serious tool to sort of elevate your agency as well as your like personal brand?
When like I think my first post went viral on LinkedIn. So then there and there I was like, wow. Because I have an Instagram page and I've had viral videos before, but never to the extent that LinkedIn made my video viral. Like it was like first post took off. The support was insane. I understood that the community on LinkedIn is completely different to any social media. They're also supportive. Everyone out there is out there to support you, not to get you or like to hate on you. And there's people there that actually want to teach you or help you, which on Instagram or like TikTok or anything else, I've never seen it. Like I've seen it, but not to that extent.
When you say like viral, like what was the post firstly?
It was an introduction post. I was like, hey, like guys, I'm Lara. Like I've been on LinkedIn for like 2 weeks, and this is what happened. And like I had set myself a goal of like 500 connections in like 3 months. Connections, not even followers, because I didn't even know like you could get followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I got that 500 plus connection goal in weeks, and I was like saying that and shared a couple about myself, and I got like 4,000 reactions.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what is this? And I was like, once you get a viral post, you get the adrenaline and endorphins, dopamine hit from it. And you're like, I couldn't leave it. Like, yeah.
But like, so I've spoken to a lot of like content creators, not just on LinkedIn, but just like around. And a lot of them like talk about their first ever like viral post, and it's always like a really exhilarating experience. But I did speak to one person where she was like, I had so many viral posts and I was getting that dopamine hit. And I just realized like these viral posts don't actually do anything for me. Like they don't equate to more money. They don't equate to more like happiness really. So it's like, but that was on so like Instagram Reels. But so when you say went viral, what were the sort of like results from that, as well as like after you grew your LinkedIn, like what sort of results are you sort of getting?
Yeah, so since then, I've had like a few viral posts as well. I've only been on LinkedIn for 10 months, by the way. Like it's literally just been 10 months and I've learned so much. But with the whole viral posting, I understand you get close to no leads from viral posts. But what you need to understand is they get you that reach that you need to get to then convert those leads into whatever, those posts into followers, customers, whatever. I think they're still very important. They obviously do make you a little bit ego driven sometimes, and they can like, sway your how you post and what you post. But definitely if you do it in a really smart way, a viral post can bring in more clients. Absolutely. But for me, my first viral post, I wasn't even expecting it. I wasn't really selling anything. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just trying to figure the platform out. And I think the return on investment from that post for me has been incredible. Like money, and also the feeling of there's path for me there. Because I was trying to find something. Like I was really demotivated. And I think, that's all from it.
So you got like more clients, more like engagement.
Yeah,
like what did that sort of equate to?
In that month, I got 2 new clients with a higher retainer. Like I raised my prices. It was like for a completely different product. I started offering LinkedIn services, which is now my whole thing now. I used to do social media management like Instagram, TikTok, but never LinkedIn. Now we've expanded to that and we do personal branding. But again, I wasn't looking for clients at the start. So I was just happy with it, whatever the outcome was.
Yeah. But I mean, I've spoken to a lot of LinkedIn creators as well, and they always sort of like say how powerful the tool can be. But for people like listening, I guess, like that haven't really much effort into it. And Like I'm definitely one, to be fair.
Yeah,
Like I haven't put much effort into it, and I get told by so many people to put more like time and effort in, especially like everything that I do. But I guess like, should people take this tool seriously? Like, on what sort of like should they go into it? Like, what sort of mindset should they go into it with?
Honestly, I think everybody should be trying to go on LinkedIn. Like everybody has an Instagram and everybody has a TikTok now. Everybody should be on LinkedIn. Approach it from the way that you're creating content. You're not job seeking. You're not like networking just to get a job. It's more like treat it as somewhere where you can put your experience in like an engaging and educational way. Like teach something that you know that you would like to be, that you 6 months ago or a year ago you would have liked to be taught, and do it in the way that you think have learned it. That's the way I've approached it, and it's worked really well because people want information in a nice way. They don't want boring information with like complex jargon and like super overcomplicated words that no one wants to read. And the more simple you make your content, the better.
So when it comes to when you say like anyone can be on it, with you, it's like, I'd say it's very complimentary of what you do, because if you're like helping people manage their LinkedIn, that's your like income and that's your agency, then it makes a ton of sense for you to also sort of like be on LinkedIn and be really good on LinkedIn. But for people that are like in, say, B2B software, or like, I don't know, industries that, or like, I don't know, consumer goods, like, and stuff like that, is there still applicability there for them?
Yeah, 100%. There's like, for B2B, the space is amazing. You need to remember that now, like LinkedIn is used, like they have an older audience.
Yeah.
Like on Instagram, it's not that. And on LinkedIn, they are. And like, because it's a networking platform and more like a business platform, people are ready to buy. So even if you're a B2B, whatever industry you're in, it's still very, very, very relevant. Like your potential customers are there.
That's really interesting. But does the strategy change, say, for people that like are in different industries? Because you say like, yeah, focus on like education.
Yeah.
Is the strategy like the same? Like, doesn't matter which industry you're in?
So I have B2B clients and it's the same strategy. You just need to put out really highly valuable content where you teach people what you know, regardless of the industry. So I teach about social media, but for our clients, we talk about coaching, we talk about B2B, we talk about services, we talk about, for some of them, we even talk about, they have construction companies, softwares. So it's all about showcasing your product, what it does, how it can help them, and just showing everything basically. And then that brings people in, like they know what they're talking about. I really like this person. And building a personal brand rather than a company brand. People like buying from people over companies. In an era where there's ads everywhere, people stand out the most because we as humans crave human connection. So if a person is talking about their business, whatever industry it is, people will care more because they want to hear it from the person who's doing it, not the company.
I've seen loads of people on LinkedIn go down the route of like, yeah, sharing personal stories and then sharing like business stories and then sort of like education within their industry. Like for me, those three look like very different things, right? So like, how much should you say like focus on the personal side? How much on the education side? How much on like what you're actually doing? What is your company actually doing? So like, what's the sort of like mix there?
So I've heard a lot before, a guy called Matt Barker on LinkedIn, and he said once that you need to focus 80% on niche content, 20% of broad content, which I think is the perfect mix. So for me, it kind of looks like 3 posts a week of educational content where I teach people the tactical side of marketing, how to do things, step by steps, whatever. And then twice a week or maybe once, I'll put a story, like sharing my journey, a photo of me, doing normal entrepreneur things, or, something inspirational. That mix works really well because it shows people that your things, like your stuff perfectly, and to like a tactical level where people can apply it. But also the more inspirational posts help people connect with you as a person.
Yeah.
And people become fans through that. Like people like the stories because they just want to connect. And they are like, okay, I really like this person because they're teaching me things. So I can relate to them because they do X and I do X. So yeah.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. So for you, like you've been on LinkedIn for 10 months, you said. like you've got really good results from it, as you mentioned, but you've also had like bad stuff as well, like the dark side of LinkedIn that we like talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say LinkedIn literally changed my life. Like, it's literally changed my life. I met you like 6 months ago, and like even then, like my life has pivoted so incredibly. Like, it's crazy. It's actually because I just wanted to reflect on that. It was amazing. But dark side to LinkedIn is just one of it is you get stuck competing against all the people your age. Like, you'll see on LinkedIn, you'll see people that are 20 years old, 18 years old doing it. Like, you get the Forbes 30 under 30 there who are posting on LinkedIn actively. And then you start feeling like, am I even doing this right? Am I too old to be doing this? And like, we're only in our 20s and already like thinking that we're too old. Like, it's a really bad, I guess, thought process that it leads you to have. It happens with all social medias, but I think LinkedIn is different because you're questioning your abilities as an entrepreneur or as a business person. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I like that's probably the worst side of LinkedIn for me personally. It's like you see people posting always positive stuff, and like, I mean, it is a promotional tool at the end of the day. That's what it's used for. So it's like when you see that and you're like, oh, like they're my age or younger than me, you're like, what am I doing? Wasting time. And then you like put a ton of pressure on yourself, and it just leads to a lot of like anxiety for like no reason really, because it's just like their success and what they're posting, you don't know if that's the full like picture. And but the thing is, like, I'd say and also people that say this stuff, like, also the problem, because I do post a lot of like good stuff. It's difficult, at least for a lot of people, to share like honest stories around like their journey of entrepreneurship. And so it can be a pretty toxic platform. But I think once you kind of realize that everyone's kind of in the same boat, I guess, like people want to share the good stuff more than the bad stuff. It's just the nature of humans alike, I guess. But even though like it would be better if people share the negative stuff as well, it's just the way it is. But once you kind of realize that, it becomes like a less toxic platform, I guess.
Yeah, I think TikTok, like LinkedIn is the least toxic one out of them all. I've been on TikTok and Instagram. I think TikTok is the worst one. People can just hide on the anonymous names and comment shit on your profile. But on LinkedIn, you can actually, people are less likely to comment stuff like that because you can actually see their job and like where they work, and you could easily just email them with a screenshot. So it's not that it doesn't happen that much. But
yeah, that's true.
I think even if you try to share the downsides, it doesn't work as well, because if you do it, people can mock you. I remember this viral post of like this crying CEO that went like it blew up and everybody was mocking him, and he tried to open up in his own way and it just backfired on him. So It was like, yeah, it was horrible. Like he was crying about something. He had fired a bunch of employees and he felt really bad. Obviously, that does lead to some bullying, I guess, because they're like, why are you crying? You literally fired people. But he was trying to just, share his side of the story and what happened. And I was like, well, if they react like this, then no wonder why no one wants to share anything.
So should you be like honest? Like,
yeah, no,
realistically?
the more honest and transparent you are, the better. Like, you start attracting the right people for you, because at the end of the day, you need to. Everybody has a different personality and different styles of leading, and the more honest you are about who you are, the better for you at the end. Because you might like you start getting leads from clients that you potentially will clash with, but now through publicizing your personality and how you work and your values, etc., the right people will gravitate to you rather than the wrong type.
But as you say, you're opening yourself up for a lot of like scrutiny and abuse and bullying. So it's like,
that's the thing with social media though, like you can either do it or you don't do it.
yeah.
Like I'm not gonna force anyone to like share their personal lives. Like, no one needs to do that. You can still be personal with sharing like that you have kids, or that you have a girlfriend, or like that you have mental illness and this is why you're struggling. Like, you don't need to do all that to be successful on the platform or like personable. You just need to just be honest about the things that you want to be honest about, regardless of what they are.
So like for you personally, even know all these things and you're like saying them, has it still been like a difficult challenge, like overcoming that bad side of things? Because you put yourself out there a lot.
Yeah. One of my posts went viral last week and got abused in the comment sections. Like, a guy just left a horrible comment and started a thread. It got like loads of likes, and then this same guy made a mocking post mocking me. And I was kind of upset because I didn't see the problem with it. Apparently, for him, it was really problematic. And I just had a look at it, and I was really upset about it. But I was like, I think that's a whole part of growing. You'll get haters at some point, and I guess that's my first hater, so I think I made it. But even as well, when it comes to the comparison side of things, I compare myself a lot to other agency owners in my space that are doing 2-3 times as much as me. Like, they're scaling their agencies, they have like 20 plus employees, and they're like 21 and I'm 25, and I'm like, what am I doing? Am I doing this wrong? Like, is my system not working? Blah blah. And you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes I gotta remember I'm doing a master's as well. I'm like still trying to figure this out. Like, this was like all unintentional. I didn't even know I was going to end up in this route. So have to like remind yourself that you're in your own path for a reason. Like, it's your path, not theirs, and everybody has their way of doing things. So yeah.
But even though like those like marketing agencies, they do hire people very quickly, but I've seen they do fire people very quickly as well, but they don't probably post about that.
Right.
That does happen, right?
Yeah, I guess, but you know, you only see the good things.
Yeah,
like, I just hired 20 people, and like the agency's scaling to like 8 figures a year, a month or whatever. And I'm just like,
But that's the nature of that business model, is like, if you lose one huge client, that you could lose a lot of payroll, right? That's just the nature of like an agency when it comes to selling time for money, right? So yeah, that I've seen that as well, but they don't post about that. That's the interesting
I don't
thing.
think about that. I'm just like, cry. I just see a post and it's like immediately compare myself. But it's the same on Instagram. Like, you'll see a pretty girl with like amazing body and you'll compare. So it's just the same thing.
Yeah. So like, how do you say like overcome these things?
I think what I've done, and it's worked really well, I've built an amazing community of people and like a network of people that I can now call my friends. In the same industry, they're all the same age, like you included. Like, I can talk to so many people that have gone through the struggles I'm going through, or like have even gone past them and succeeded. Easily can ask anyone and answer, no problem. And all because you build this community of amazing people. So LinkedIn is bad, but also is really, really good. I think the benefits outweigh whatever negatives they have in the community. I have like 3-4 really close friends now from it that I go to for advice. Like, hey, how do I do this? What do I do here? I feel really bad about this. I'm comparing myself, and they'll just answer. Like, give it to you straight, and I'll be like, okay, just listen, take the advice.
Okay, so yeah, community, and I guess like also realizing that LinkedIn is like, some of it is fake, right?
All of social media is fake at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Even like when people post stats, they're fake most of the time. So just remember, like, it's our brain just functions in a way that we make the irrational choice first and then the rational choice after. So
just before we like wrap up on the LinkedIn side and go towards like what your agency is doing, I think it's just like there's overlap because you're like doing LinkedIn for people. But I guess like, what's been the biggest growth in terms of your LinkedIn? Like, what have you seen that's like worked immensely well? Because you're 10 months on the platform, you must have experimented with a whole different types of like formats, like messaging, frequencies. Like, what have you worked effectively well that people can replicate?
I think the most important part of LinkedIn is defining what your service is, because you'll be surprised. I was so confused about it, and I was like posting content, but it was leading nowhere. After that viral post, I felt like I needed to post things, and I quickly started like trying to copy other creators, which is perfectly fine. Like, you can steal people's and then emulate it to you. That's perfectly fine, and I encourage that so much. But I was starting to try and copy the personality, how they spoke, what they were teaching, because I thought it worked for them, so it must work for me. But then I quickly realized that doesn't work. Like, you can't just copy someone's content and expect it to perform the same, because you wouldn't see like that. And people can tell, like, they're very smart. So define what your service is, define your tone of voice, what creator you want to be. Do you want to be serious? Do you want to be like boring? Like, do you want to be very tactical?
Do people want to be boring?
Yeah, it works for some people. You'll be surprised. Do you want to, be a storyteller or just be educational? There's so many things to choose from. And the minute you like narrow that down, choose your personality on LinkedIn, what you want to do on it, and where is it leading, the quicker you'll be able to start posting content that gives you the results. You also just commit to it. Like, you need to be consistent with it, because people like you don't post enough, or like aren't on it enough, or like aren't building a community enough. And it's just, you need to be on there. People come and go all the time. People that I started with 10 months ago aren't there anymore. So it's just, you just have to put the time. Like, I literally scheduled time on my calendar every day to be on LinkedIn, because it's become so important to me, and I can see that the return on investment and the time commitment is so worth it.
Got you. That makes a ton of sense. But when people come to your agency and they want LinkedIn services, what's the sort of like, how do you break it down for them? So you just said like what sort of content you want to be, like what sort of like brand image, but so how do you like break it down? Because I know people want to like replicate this. So
the most important thing for me, it was like, I have inbound leads all the time. Like, I don't do a lot of outreach anymore. I get inbound from just my posts. So you break down how you work, what you do perfectly by steps. Like, show people what you do. Like, literally show them. It doesn't matter if you think that they will steal it and do it themselves. Like, people pay for the time, not for the actual product. If you think about it, they pay for conveniency, they pay for expertise. They don't want to do it themselves. So just show what you do, break it down for them. And then when they DM you, just get them on a call, talk about what they do, make sure they're a fit. Because I made the mistake at the start that I was just taking every single client that I could get, just because I wasn't in like an abundance mindset. I was like in a scarcity mindset where I just needed to get money, client. And then turns out that obviously those relationships didn't work because I didn't qualify them properly. I didn't validate that we were the right fit. I didn't have enough expertise in their market. They didn't have the commitment I thought they would need. Depends. Like, it's a lot of like, you need to ask a lot of questions to get the right client.
Got you. That makes a ton of sense, because you don't want to just like take everyone, especially if it's like not a good fit.
I think we all do it, like other stuff of business, just because we need to get that like cash flow going. But then once you're like comfortable, and you need to realize you can't define who you want to be working with.
What's interesting for me though, because you said at the beginning, like LinkedIn is like an older audience. You're coming into this as like a young girl, like talking about like you're an expert on LinkedIn, and like you would be, right? But I know a lot of people, because it's an older sort of like audience, wouldn't really take you seriously because of the age thing. So like, has that been a friction point?
Not at all. Like, I've never found it a problem when it came to clients. Like, clients approach us because they can see the potential. They know we've been literally using social media since like we were teenagers, and they didn't have that. So they're paying us for like who we are. And at the end of the day, the right client will come to you for like your expertise, whatever, no matter what your age is. Obviously, sometimes we get hate as millennials, Gen Zs, because we don't have 20 years of experience under our belt. But I don't think it's necessary anymore. Like, I think a year of experience, like, and hard work, like self-education, is enough to start building something great. Age isn't like, shouldn't anyone, and whoever criticizes people for age like has it all wrong.
See, I'm a big believer in that as well, what you just said. I think years of experience is like extremely outdated now. I think when you see it on like job postings, or like people being like, oh, you're not that experienced, but it's like they don't look at impact. So they kind of equate experience equals impact, when it's actually like, it's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you've made like a lot of impact within LinkedIn in 10 months versus someone that's not made much of an impact over 10 years, like, they've got 10 years experience.
Yeah.
But then you've got like 10 months experience. So it's like, okay, it's a lot less, but they you should look at the impact. And as well, another thing is like, technology has moved so fast that if it is 10 years experience, like 7 of those years are outdated, I think now.
Yeah,
so it's like,
for sure.
what's the point? So it's like, you might as well pick someone that's doing a lot of impact today rather than just because they're experienced, because it's just a number.
Yeah, I was talking about this on my LinkedIn actually. I said like a year of hard work and self-education can teach you more than a 3-year university degree. And I have a 3-year university degree, and I can 100% say that the year that I spent during the pandemic trying to upskill myself helped me more than my business degree. Absolutely, 100%. I learned more. Business degrees and even like, I don't know, work don't teach you enough about anything. They teach you fragments of it, but it isn't until you start applying it and getting your hands dirty that get the experience you need to succeed. Education and like, for me, is not the return on investment. I think is just enough, because you learn to do the things, but you don't actually do the things. So you forget how to do it because you never did it. But when you're constantly doing it, when you're constantly failing, you're constantly realizing that it doesn't work, you're constantly, trying to improve yourself, you learn how to do it regardless, because you don't want to fail, and you stand back up after falling down like a million times.
Yeah. So that's a really good point to end on, to be fair. I don't really want to ask any more questions. So what's next for you, like in terms of LinkedIn, your agency? I know you're going to like finish your master's soon. So like what's the sort of next step for you?
I think right now it's just like perfecting everything, making sure I have everything set. And then for the moment I finished university, like literally the moment I finished university, scale it up, make a big thing that I want to like it to be. Right now I can't commit to it. I need to finish the master's and I need to do it well.
Yeah.
So it's been really hard for me to get that in my brain, because the dark side of LinkedIn, again, like I'm comparing myself all the time, and I'm like, oh my God, this person's scaling this thing, like, oh my God, this person is doing all of these things, and I'm like still doing like half the things. But I have to remember, like, I have all the priorities, and priority first is the masters, and also the agency. But moving forward, the moment I finish, it's just scaling up.
Lara, thank you so much for the podcast. It was such a pleasure talking to you. How can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Follow me on LinkedIn, Lara Acosta, and yeah, that's it. That's where you can find me.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.